Hey Lou, this is your girl Nadia from Parklands, Kenya. I hope you are doing good. Welcome to the Defiant Misfits podcast by Jesse Kimathi. The Defiant Misfits from Mukuru Kwa Jenga episode 1 narration is now officially available. I hope you enjoy. Have a listen.
The Defiant Misfits Chapter 1, Born into the Hassle. Hey there. Let me tell you a story about Justin and two of his friends who deviated from the public norms and overcame challenges that many people living in slums accept as just normal life. Justin was born in the eastern parts of Nairobi, Kenya. His parents were staunch Catholics who lived by the belief that a bottle of liquor could wash away their sins if gulped every day. Life in Mukuru Kwa and Jenga slum was not only hard yesterday but also today. You can imagine how tough it was for Justin growing up there as the only child of alcoholic parents guilty of neglecting their parental responsibilities. Justin had to learn to look after himself at a tender age. He had to wake up every day and go inside the dumping site, a place where most slum kids went with a sack bag to collect anything of value that they could find thrown away. It was at this dumping site where Justin met most of his friends, with whom they would stick together like jiggers in the toes of the dirty old beggar, Jafari, who used to beg for coins at the entrance of Mukuru slums. At around the same year Justin became a frequent visitor of the dumping site. His parents died in a road accident, a hit and run, while crossing the Outering Road, a highway that has always been full of overspeeding vehicles. He was 5 years old then. He could not cry when he received the bad news. Seeing his parents was a privilege he had not had for the 3 years before their demise. He had always called them stupid birds of feather, who drunk together until they withered, chewing blackouts and sleeping by the sewerage that took pleasure in flowing over them. For the simple reason that no one was willing to cater for their burial, the information of their origin was withheld from the police, by their slum neighbors who opted to leave them to rot in city mortuary as was the case for unidentified bodies. Justin had all his life known no other relative besides his mum and dad, people he had grown to hate for neglecting him when he had hardly finished suckling. He did not even want to ever miss them. A makeshift shelter at the corner of the queer dumping site was what he had known to be home all his life. You wouldn't call something made up of polythene paper and mosquito nets a house, would you? Nevertheless, Justin became self-reliant at a young age, teaching himself how to survive in the street. Together with his dumping site friends, they would collect recyclable goods at the site and sell them to small-scale recyclers in Pipeline, a neighboring town. They used the money they would get to buy food for themselves. Their need for clothing was always sorted as one charity foundation of goodwill would bring them second-hand clothes every month. He became friends with Jonty and Kent who like him had been neglected by their parents who were still alive, though out of touch with reality due to excessive consumption of booze. As they were collecting recyclables at the dumping site one early morning, Kent recounted to his friends how his father used to squeeze his mother's breasts every morning while screaming that booze must ooze out of them or else he would stretch them out and turn them into fallen soldiers. His mother would then pull out a plastic bottle full of booze from beneath her oversized bra and give it to him. They would simultaneously drink it together and immediately start singing Kikuyu traditional songs. That was their routine until one day they went out like they usually did but never came back. The word was that they had eloped to a richer dumping site and left poor 4-year-old Kent alone. By the time they were 8 years old, they had come to be known all over Embakasi West as the independent kids. Everyone would admire their ability to survive by themselves without any parental figure. The women who ran food kiosks and small hotels around Pipeline, Imaradaima, and Mukuru's slum areas grew fond of the boys so much that they started giving them free food in exchange of them running few errands for them. One famous landlady called Shiko, out of goodwill, gave the boys a free room inside one of her tin houses. The boys had never been happier before that day. Another person of goodwill donated a mattress, a bed and 2 blankets to the poor little kids. They saw that as a giant step of progress considering that in some people's eyes they had been homeless as a makeshift shelter next to a dumping site did not fit quite well into their definition of a home. Up to then however, they had known not the gates of a school. Everything they knew up to then, they had learnt it in the streets. No one had offered to buy them school uniform or at least be their guardian. They would tell Shiko the landlady how they would love to join a school. Having no children of her own, Shiko started to treat them as her own. She promised them that they would soon join a public school since it used to be free then as long as one bought uniforms and learning tools for themselves. Shiko however was willing to do all that for them on one condition. That they would do one tiny thing for her in return. help her in the distribution of weed around the city while in the pretense that it was the recyclables that they were carrying in their sacks. This would earn them a good commission for every bag of weed they safely delivered. Before the year they would have joined school, they started peddling weed. They would visit the dumping site, collect a few used plastic bottles to conceal the bags of weed in their sacks, and instead of going to the recyclers like before, they would deliver the bags to their respective buyers all around Embakasi West. The commission they earned from it was so good that they started forgetting about their wish of going to school. To hell with school if they could make that money with nothing but street knowledge, was all Jaunt and Kent told Shiko when she reminded them to save up money. Shiko always smiled from the corner of her mouth whenever they uttered such ignorant phrases. She seemed contented with the fact that Jaunt and Kent couldn't save due to their love for street food. Justin, however, started saving. He still wanted to go to school. He wanted to know what he did not know. Even as the kid he was then, it was clear to him that he was not the kind to settle for the life he had found himself in. He had a dream of changing it one day and living large. Unknown to them, Pinche, an undercover cop disguised as a slum dweller, was following their activities closely as he was on a secret mission to unravel the mystery of drug business in the region. Coming back from their daily routine, as the sun was setting like they usually did, one odd evening, the three boys went where Jafari always sat begging by the slum's entrance, each of them dropping a few coins into Jafari's metallic cup. On this day, however, Jafari, instead of showering the boys with words of gratitude like he usually did, stammered inaudibly with caution written all over his face. The boys confusedly looked at each other and left, wondering what had gotten into Jafari. As they disappeared into the slum and mixed with the crowd, Jafari tried to stand up and go after them, looking apparently bothered, but his crippled legs couldn't let him rise from the stone he always sat on against the wall. Realizing that he couldn't manage to convey the message he wanted, Jafari gave a sigh of relief and muttered somewhat as if to himself, "The serpents are lurking. I have to warn them before it's too late." That's the end of this episode.
Wow! What an introduction to the Defiant Misfits from Mukuru Kwa jenga. Can't wait for the next episode. What are you waiting for, y'all? Share the link with story lovers from all over the world.